can actually get through the intro this time. We're only on take 70. Good Lord. Storytelling. It is the single most important part of this industry, and it's the people behind the mic that do it better than anyone else. They set the table for what we are watching, and tonight, that's what we're talking about. Welcome to Wrestling with Egos, the giggle fest that never ends. My name's Patrick, and I am joined by the gentleman in the green who has wrecked the last 69 takes because 68 takes because I wrecked take number 1, and he's been giggling through the last 68 of them. My best friend Brian, joined as always by the big man himself, Isaac. Gentlemen, Isaac, how are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm doing great. I've messed up once. I messed up once or twice, but I'm not on the level of everybody.
You only had reactionary laughs to Giggle Pants over here.
I'm so sorry.
The,
Everything's like going
the
wrong.
stoic professional intellectual savior of this show has been just slap happy for the last 15 minutes.
This is why you all need to listen to Wrestling with Egos, and it's why you need to watch Wrestling with Egos on all the podcast platforms that we mention every week, because you never know what's going to happen. This is totally against type for me.
Right, because
I got titles falling down behind me. I got the giggles. I don't know why I have the giggles, but here we are. I'm ready to pull it together. I'm ready to right the ship. Storytelling.
Brian is generally the straight man on this show, and it's me and Isaac that are usually boop, 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 pushing every button the man's got. Didn't even need to push a button tonight. I just needed to fumble over my words in take number 1.
And that's what I forgot what it was already, and I just
fumbled over. Yeah, because you know why? Because you were laughing. You've been laughing so much that you have killed off some brain cells because you've been lacking oxygen. You have brain cells that have passed out because you're just.
Anyway, you were talking about storytelling.
Yes,
and how important it is.
Very much so. And tonight, here on Wrestling with Egos, we are going to talk about the announcers that set the table for what we're watching on TV. The good ones, the bad ones, and the shitty ones. We're going to talk about them all. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show this week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, click the bell for the notifications on YouTube. If you're checking us out on any of our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 podcasting platforms, whether it be Anchor, Spotify, Google, Apple, iHeartRadio, or Amazon. Make sure you are hitting the like button, you are subscribing, and you are leaving us a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star review. Be nice if we had 6 platforms and 6 stars, or even 7-star FTR. We would appreciate it. Show us some love. You love us, and we will love you back. You can interpret that however you want.
I'll give you some love.
Cue up Careless Whisper, although we can't because copyright, and we don't want to get hammered on that one.
Such a great song.
Amazing song. The Wham version and the Cedar cover, both great. Brian won't like the Cedar cover because he doesn't like metal. We pray for him daily, boys and girls.
We pray for him daily.
Yes. Anyway, so again, we're going to talk about announcers, whether or not we think they suck, we think they're great, whatever. And I'm going to start it off with one name. And for me, this was the reason I wanted to start this argument tonight. Because if you would have asked me 7 months ago when I moved into this house, who was the worst ring announcer? Who was the worst commentator on wrestling television? I would say this guy's name. 7 months later, if you were to ask me who one of the best is, I would say this guy's name. And I can't believe I'm doing it. Michael freaking Cole. Oh my, what can change when you are not being berated by an insanely bitter, idiotic sociopath? Hey, Michael Cole and I have something in common.
You forgot old.
Well, I wanted to leave out old. That way I could actually say that Michael Cole and I had something in common.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
So, I wanted to use certain character traits. I think you know where I'm going with that one. Anyway, moving right along. But since Vince McMahon has been removed from creative and power and everything else from WWE, Michael Cole is a completely different announcer. Michael Cole is saying phrases that Vince would never let him say. For example, hospital, wrestling, New Japan, Bullet Club. These are all phrases that Michael Cole, the soldier for Vince McMahon for 20 some odd years, is now saying. And before Vince left, his career was getting that jolt of adrenaline because of one Pat McAfee. Am I wrong in this one? Michael Cole used to be the worst, and now he's top 2.
It's instructive of what happens when you're actually allowed to bring your knowledge to bear in your job, and you're not just a backloaded puppet.
When you're actually allowed to do your job your damn way.
Right.
I mean, Brian, you of all people should appreciate this more than anyone else because of your line of work. You're trying to teach your students, and you're trying to teach them the best way you know how. Now, if, for example, and I know obviously, your principal at your elementary school and your superintendent in your district are not morons, because you teach at a very good school district here in Northeast Ohio. We won't disclose which one. But if your superintendent and the Board of Education and your principal were fucking idiots, they would force upon you a curriculum that you would have to teach your students to their detriment. And that is exactly what we had with Michael Cole as our announcer and Vince McMahon as the superintendent. We got shit curriculum.
It's Michael Cole is finally calling these matches the way I dare say the three of us would call them. Because when something happens, because when something happens in the ring and there's a callback to something else, we need to acknowledge it. We need to stop pretending that these wrestling matches happen in a vacuum every week. It's not a vacuum. There's a rich history that goes back here. So when Finn Balor and AJ Styles, for example, have a set to in the ring, it's not they used to be in control of a faction a long time ago. No, tell us the faction. You're allowed. You can say Bullet Club.
And they did, and at War Games, at Survivor Series, they did.
Yeah.
Or they even might have done it at Crown Jewel.
Yes,
Actually,
I believe you're right, because
they did it both.
They did.
But they went into uber detail at Survivor Series. Finn Balor was the founding member of the Bullet Club. He left, and AJ Styles took over. When AJ took over, Bullet Club did not view it as anyone being the leader, being more one for all and all for one, where Finn was the leader. And they literally explained all of that in about as few seconds as I did. Very concise and perfect. And I'm like, wow.
And that does two things. Number one, all the smart fans out there that watch more than one promotion, they get validated. Yeah, okay, they understand wrestling history. And number two, if you're watching the product for the first time, or if you're a young child, you understand now, okay, these guys must have more backstory than I'm aware of. It's not just they're wrestling now in WWE. They must have been wrestling for a long time. Hey, mom, hey, dad.
Or three, you are a as someone else on the show used to be, a very closeted WWE fan, where all you know is WWE because that's all you watch. You don't watch AEW. You don't watch Impact. You don't watch NWA. You don't watch New Japan. You don't pay attention to anything on YouTube like us or
Right.
What Culture or anyone like that. You just stay in your little box, like Brian, a long time ago.
Guilty as charged.
Huh?
Guilty as charged.
Hey, yeah, you have evolved, my good son. You have evolved. But if you are one of those fans like Brian used to be, what this does is this opens up your worldview to something that you did not know existed. And guess what that does? That grows the business, that grows fan observation, and then they can go back, look at this, realize what kind of storyline and what kind of faction this was, and then realize the damn tagline of this show, this is why we love wrestling.
Yep.
That's all I got on Michael Cole. He used to be the absolute drizzling shits. Now he's the shit. Do I have any arguments to the contrary here?
No arguments from me on that.
Isaac, who you got? First submission to the argument, my good man.
First submission, first ballot. I'm going to say good old JR.
Brian, you better go.
I have a lot of respect for
A lot of respect.
Jim Ross and his contributions to the business. He was the soundtrack to my wrestling fan. When I got back into watching it during the Attitude Era, you know, the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker and Mick Foley.
Good God Almighty, they killed him. Somebody stop the damn match.
You know, I've referenced many times my favorite match of all time on this show, the Iron Man match between Triple H and Rock at Judgment Day 2000. I don't know what it is about this line, but it gets me every time, and it's nut cutting time. It's 6:38 or whatever it was when Triple H went up 4 falls to 1 or whatever it was, and like I felt like, oh my God, Rock's in trouble. At that time, and it's a lot of like what I said about Bret Hart, you know, a couple months or last month when we did that show. There's a pocket with JR where he could do no wrong. His interplay with Paul Heyman during the Invasion stuff. The Invasion angle was terrible. We all get that.
Yes.
Their interplay was classic, you know. But then I feel like his quality of work has dropped off, you know. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We're not going to, you know, dredge all of that up and anything like that. But you've told me before, Patrick, and so is RJ and so is Isaac, when he was on New Japan as a commentator, he was terrible.
All right. May I? Because this is the point in the show where I take a flamethrower to somebody's argument. Jim Ross is ass. And here's my argument why. Unlike, with all due respect to both of you gentlemen, unlike both of you, I have been listening to Jim Ross's voice ever since I was my daughter's age. That's 7, by the way.
You've got a lot more.
I watched WCW. I watched the old NWA in the late 90s, early 90s. I heard him call matches with Sting and Flair and Dusty and Wyndham, and the list goes on and on and on. I saw him in the early 90s at WrestleMania 9 in Vegas, where where he's doing commentary there. Jim Ross has only been good in 3 different moments. in that one little moment of a couple during the Austin era, when Austin was the top guy in the business for a couple of years, which that was Austin's window, during the invasion angle with Paul Heyman, and in WCW with Paul Heyman. Every other time outside of that, Jim Ross has been ass. Because one, he's been paired up with a bevy, with a litany of shit color commentators. Jesse freaking Ventura, Jerry Lawler, Vince McMahon. He's paired with absolute shite. And now that he's on AEW, he's the one that's absolute shite. He was shitting when he was doing New Japan with Josh Barnett. Jim Ross gets more credit than he's worth because of the Austin era. And good God Almighty, they killed him. Jim Ross had one good album, and we treat him like he's AC/DC. I have him on my list of, I have 3 lists that I have made. Best, worst, and aight. And Jim Ross is aight. He's aight because all that ass that he gave us gets elevated to aight status because that 2-year window and the 2 eras with Heyman were mwah.
If I may,
Please.
you just mentioned a name in your roast of Jim Ross just now. And maybe this goes back to me being strictly WWE person as a child. I'd like to hear your argument against Jesse Ventura as a commentator.
Jesse Ventura was horseshit. Jesse Ventura was on commentary for one reason and one reason only, to get Jesse Ventura over. He wasn't there to get what was going on in the ring over. He was there to get himself over. When he's paired up with Gorilla Monsoon in WWE, all Jesse wanted to do was talk about himself. Talk about how much he didn't like this person or this person or this person. And every once in a while, he'd add a little bit of a morsel that actually sounded like he knew what the living shit he was talking about. In WCW, he did absolute worse. Trust me, I know this because this was the moment in WCW where I was watching more than any before NWO, because the world champion at that point in time in WCW just happened to be fucking Sting. Of course, I'm watching. Sting is my dog. Day one. Jesse Ventura was trash.
Now, to be fair, it's not like I watched every week. To have a body of work, it's again, it's a lot like with Jim Ross. It's the moments. It's, win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. That
and
kind
never
of
get
thing.
caught. I'm sorry. I did that line. I jumped in there for a reason, and I'll get to him in a little bit.
And I love some of his interactions with Monsoon, because Monsoon, I forget what event it was, but he said he dropped him on his external occipital protuberance there. His what? Oh, the back of his neck. Well, why don't you just say that?
That wasn't Ventura.
I think or was it Heenan?
That was Piper.
That was Piper. Okay. Then I'm misremembering stuff. Or
what do you want to do? That was SummerSlam 91 when you had Monsoon, Heenan, and Piper, and I'm laughing my ass off for 3.5 freaking hours.
I got to go back and watch that then.
That pay-per-view had one really good match and hours of comedic gold, because Monsoon is refereeing 2 children, Heenan and Piper. It is magical.
I mean, okay, well, Isaac, I'm sorry to keep jumping in here with names, but you just brought up Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, I can't think of. I mean, here's a comparison. Gorilla Monsoon reminds me a lot of myself
Yes.
with the two of you sometimes.
Thank you. Here's where I have Monsoon on my best list.
Yes, I mean, eloquent, very
Brilliant.
rarely, very even keel, very rarely got agitated except when he was sparring with Heenan all the time. Will you stop? You know, that kind of stuff.
Stop.
But
and go ahead.
The great calls of all the, you know, I remember all the matches with Hogan and the matches with Bret Hart and the matches with you know, Big John Studd and Andre the Giant and all that.
Hogan Andre, the finals of the tournament at Mania 4. Hogan Savage at 5. Miss Elizabeth being reunited with Macho at the end of WrestleMania 7?
7.
Yes.
Yeah. After the career-ending match against the Warrior. Those matches, just Monsoon by himself, brilliant. Monsoon by himself, amazing. Monsoon with Bobby Heenan, that is the greatest team in the history of commentary.
That's the New York Philharmonic right there.
Oh my God.
That's the masterclass.
That is Pavarotti and Andrea Bocelli right there. I mean, that's just good. The only thing Monsoon has going against him is his work with Ventura. And it wasn't because of Monsoon. It was because of Ventura. Ventura was ass. So Monsoon is very high at the top of my great list. My knock against Ventura, aside from the fact that he was always trying to, Jesse Ventura tried to put himself over on commentary more times than I've tried to put myself over on this freaking show the last 3 years. Damn.
Hold on a second. I'm carrying the 4 here. Let me check my math.
The one other thing that I hated about Jesse Ventura was the way he called replays. And here you have him, with the big move and slams it. Wham! I'm like,
oh God,
Mr. Former Governor, you're not John Madden.
All right, Isaac, get in there because I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. I humbly apologize.
Gorilla Monsoon was.
Isaac,
he has had some of the greatest moments in wrestling.
Real quick, before you jump in, we don't need to talk about this guy, but we just need to acknowledge the name and move on. Bobby Heenan. Enough said.
That was the next person I was going to mention, but anyway.
Well, you know what? Fine. Let's talk about him then.
Bobby Heenan is the greatest, the GOAT, the bar. He's all that. We aren't going to sit here and say somebody was better than him because we all know in our mind, back of our mind, nobody was better than him.
Mr. Smith, may I? You were saying that he's the greatest, he's the GOAT, he's the bar. May I add one more? As far as wrestling announcers are concerned, he is simply God.
A lot.
Where's the lie? I have never in my life laughed as hard at a wrestling commentator as I have. Bobby Heenan has you can write a book out of one-liners that Bobby Heenan has uttered. And half of them are with Monsoon. And the funny thing is, half of them aren't even on commentary. It's during, Primetime Wrestling on the USA Network on Monday nights, the show that predated Monday Night Raw. When they're in front of their little studio audience. That was sketch comedy. And Bobby Heenan's working that shit like it's Saturday Night Live and it's prime.
One just popped into my head and I can't, and you guys are going to be like shocked that I'm going to reference this.
Hit it.
Because it's not a Brian thing to say, but that's what's going to make it so funny that I'm about to say it. Sir, how long have you been married to your wife? 25 years. Do you realize that if you had killed her, you'd be out of jail by now? You had killed her when you first got married, you'd be out of jail right now?
Oh my God. That's upper level.
I may have misquoted some of that, but just no, I remember because it's on the documentary that's on the network of him.
Yes.
It's one of the first things they one of the first clips they show, as I recall, and I just about fell over because I had forgotten all about it. And then the first Monday Night Raw where he's trying to get in the building and dressed up and all the, and the guy, he's proven that he can do it all. He was a manager, an in-ring talent. He was a manager. He was a commentator. He was an interviewer. He was all of those things.
He is one of the two greatest managers in the history of this business. We've already done a show on it, Heenan versus Heyman. Really and truly, there's no wrong answer. But as far as sheer comedy, Bobby, I think my favorite, don't get me wrong, that line of Heenan's is gold. I mention it all the time. Heenan's Hall of Fame speech, gold. SummerSlam 91, him versus Piper, back and forth, gold. But for me, 1992 Royal Rumble.
Yep.
Ric Flair comes out at number 3.
It's not Flair.
That's not fair to Flair, But my favorite thing, Brain, you of all people should know, no one that's ever entered the Rumble 1 through 5 has ever gone on to win. Oh, shut up!
Oh my God.
Bow the F down.
Yep, no arguments here. I just thought of a name. I'm going to argue that he's underrated because I would have loved to have seen what he would have done if this had been his focus.
Okay.
Because who was a sneaky good commentator the few times he dabbled in it? Mick Foley.
You could say that for CM Punk too when he was on the mic.
I didn't even consider either one of them because the sample size was so small.
Right. And I'm talking, I want to say it was like 2012. Because it was the angle where it was when Christian was, and it was gonna be no, who?
I don't remember.
He got attacked by somebody. Oh, it was Edge Undertaker. And Foley was in the ring interviewing him. And I guess this was a way to write Foley off of TV or something like that. And Foley openly questioned whether Edge had the.
Yeah, because it was going to that Hell in the Cell match.
Yeah. I remember at the beginning of the summer, they put Foley on commentary, and I thought, well, he's actually pretty good. He was talking about the reasons why people were doing some of the moves and making some of the choices, and it was very insightful and very but then again, you and I have seen the man talk in person, so it shouldn't come as a surprise.
I don't remember much of Punk on commentary. I don't remember much of Foley on commentary, so I didn't include either one of them. I do want to include someone who I think is grossly underrated, and I have them on my list as one of the best. And we hear him every week now. Corey Graves.
He's more than come into his own.
Oh yeah, I think he might be the best color commentator on TV right now. He blows everybody on AEW, not named Excalibur, straight out of the water. Because let's be honest, you've got 3 play-by-play guys and Taz.
Yeah.
Excalibur, Shivani, Ross, all trying to be the lead dog, and then Taz and his dumbass. And the only time Taz is actually really, really good is when he is breaking down technical amateur wrestling or judo.
Right.
When he's doing that, good Lord, is he good. Peter Senercha belongs more in Bellator than he does AEW. That's my opinion. For the record, as far as a wrestling announcer, I have him amongst the worst.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, not for nothing, but he's not very good.
Can I give you real quick? That way I can just get him out of the way. Can I give you my entire list of the worst?
Yeah,
No.
we'll see if we disagree with any of them.
Taz, Vince,
God, yeah.
Vince era Michael Cole,
Yeah.
Jerry Lawler,
I like a couple of the things that he says.
a couple. He's Bobby Heenan light.
True.
He is the Bush Light version of Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan.
Cheap and light. But the worst of them all is Booker T.
Oh, God.
Booker T is horrible. My God in heaven. And the sad thing is he's paired up with Vic Joseph, who if Vic Joseph had a decent, a decent color commentator, Vic Joseph would be a gangster.
Yeah.
Would have been, I guess.
Yeah. Well, he's got the the albatross around his neck called Booker T.
Where
Shut
do you
up,
guys come down on
clack.
JBL?
Say what?
Where do you guys come down on JBL?
I didn't put him on the list, but yet worst.
Worst. I don't even know.
The only thing that JBL has going for him is he's got a bunch of catchphrases that he.
JBL is this generation's Ventura. He was just there to get himself over.
He's still trying to get himself over.
Oh yeah. Who else has got one? Who else has got another good one?
Okay. He wasn't color commentator. He's more of an interviewer. I say Mean Gene.
Oh, Mean Gene was amazing. Mean Gene was more of an interviewer. He was more of a mic man, but Mean Gene's contributions to this business. Mean Gene carried a shitstorm of interviews.
Well, let's not even sit here and talk about the fact that him and Hulk Hogan and the way they played off of each other is what made us. This is why we love wrestling.
Damn right.
That's all we got to say. Mean Gene, Hulk Hogan. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Come on. Every time.
Gene,
And then the other side of that coin, in the ring in WCW when Hogan was the third man.
I felt bad for him that day.
Gee whiz.
Oh my
He
God.
got everything thrown at him, including the kitchen sink.
Oh yeah, but I think Gene Okerlund added to that moment just as much as Hogan leg dropping Savage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gene Okerlund painted that beautifully. Gene Okerlund interviewing in these big, gigantic moments is a lot like a legendary sportscaster's call. It just finishes the picture. Do you believe in miracles? I do not believe what I just saw. He's at the 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Those calls. Hell, good God Almighty, they killed him.
Mm-hmm.
Gene Okerlund painted the picture as much as these play-by-play guys. And for me, Okerlund is in a G class above anybody else because Okerlund did it without having to constantly talk into a mic and be the play-by-play voice. He simply held a microphone and interviewed people. And nobody's ever done it better, including real journalists and interviewers like Howard Cosell.
This is Howard Cosell. We would like to be bringing you here.
That's enough. That's enough. I can't take much of a Howard Cosell impression. I don't care who's doing it. My God. We just said goodbye to this guy. It's not like, he's passed on, but as far as wrestling's concerned, he's no longer with us. Jimmy Smith, recently of Monday Night Raw fame, used to be a play-by-play guy for Bellator and the UFC. Just died. He wasn't terrible.
There's a lot of names that you could throw in that just all right category. I mean, part of the problem with a lot of these people that have cycled through Raw and SmackDown is they're just not around long enough to make an impact. They get hired and then 3 months later, oh, that's not working.
Right.
Jonathan
Coachman just died.
I'd say a little bit more than all right. I keep thinking Tony Schiavone.
If Tony Schiavone would have been given more, Tony Schiavone would be
God.
God. Yeah, Tony Schiavone would be on the Mount Olympus. He just didn't have.
He didn't have anybody with him.
No, he had Zbyszko. He was the number 2 guy next to Jim Ross.
He was number 2 guy next to Bobby the Brain because he was with him at times too.
Not in WCW. He was the hour until the NWO happened. He was on the hour that had Zbyszko. Whereas Bischoff was up there with Heenan. Or Schiavone had Steve McMichael.
Oh, I forgot about those 2 terrible people.
If Schiavone would have been given more, Schiavone'd be one of the best. He is at the very top for me of that Just I list.
I've got one that I think definitely belongs on the best list.
Who would that
Kevin Kelly.
Oh, I forgot about Kevin Kelly.
Ooh.
To talk about
Kevin Kelly has come so far from where he started from. It's not even funny.
If you look at Kevin Kelly's career in WWE, Kevin Kelly was absolute trash.
Yeah.
To quote Ricky Starks talking about MJF, you smell like paint thinner and ass. Great line, by the way. But Kevin Kelly in New Japan, good Lord.
Informative. Educational. He knows when to let the action speak for itself. He knows when to get in there and say things. The New Japan matches that I've watched with him on the call, I come out smarter than I went in.
Kevin Kelly does one thing that nobody else on commentary does. He lets shit breathe.
Mm-hmm.
He has no problem giving you 5 seconds of dead air just so you can listen to what's going on in the arena. Even though, Japanese fans can't completely go ape shit. They might be soon. Here's hoping, because that would just add more to a New Japan show. But he has no problem giving you dead air and just letting you feel. And that's not something you get on American TV at all. Doesn't matter what promotion. AEW, WWE, Impact, NWA. It's especially when you're on AEW and you've got 17 guys at the damn table all trying to
all trying to one up each other.
It's like a Divas concert with Aretha, Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, all trying to sing over everybody else. I mean, that's literally what AEW's commentary team is right now. I'm like, can y'all please shut up and let the dude in the mask talk? Here's a name that I personally sorely miss, and to me, does not matter what the man's doing. Boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, Mauro freaking Ranallo. Mauro Ranallo made the golden era of NXT just as much as the action in the ring. Mama freaking Mia.
Yep. I dare say that's one of the reasons we love all those matches so much. You know, we talk about all the Gargano and Ciampa matches. We talk about, you know, Balor and Joe. You know, I mean,
War Games when KO came to the ring. That same War Games when Ciampa dropped Adam Cole from the top of the freaking cage.
Yeah. Air raid crash. You know.
I mean,
Can't argue.
To talk about a guy, a commentator that got you excited because of how excited he was. You know who he reminds me of in the world of real sports? Gus Johnson on Fox.
Yeah.
Dude, there are rumors that in the next couple of years when TV contracts come up, that the Big Ten is going to end up on CBS. And for you Big Ten fans, I'm sorry, because that means you get Gary Danielson. Sorry about your damn luck. But that also means that the SEC is moving to Fox, which means I get an Iron Bowl with Gus Johnson. Hell yes.
Oh, maybe I should go call Ohio State games then.
Yeah, because y'all don't know the pain and misery that us SEC fans have had to live with Don't get me wrong, Vern Lundquist when Vern Lundquist, before he retired, he was good, but Gary Danielson's been Jesse Ventura trash for decades, bro. So give me Gus Johnson and whatever former, Notre Dame, USC quarterback, whether it's Brady Quinn or Matt Leinart or, freaking, help me
Joel
out.
Platts. Joel Platts has been.
Oh yeah, Joe Platt's the guy now. That's right. Platt's good too. Anyway.
Because they called the devastation from a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to get into that.
No, we're not. That was a bad football day for all three of us. Bad football day for all three of us.
Rough stuff.
Yeah. Moving on. So I got one on my list of and this I might catch some heat on this one because I love the guy.
What?
But he's just Pat McAfee. McAfee is an adrenaline needle. I love him. And he gets me fired up. But that's what he adds to the show is
I would say his body of work needs to be a bit more extensive before we can move him to because Michael Cole has gone on record as saying that
he revitalized his career.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for that reason alone, I think it pushes him towards
He's
great away from all right.
He's an adrenaline needle, and he adds, but he adds to the show, but he doesn't add substance to the show. There we go. That's what I'm trying to say. He doesn't add substance to the show. But I will say this: the pairing of post Vince, the pairing of Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. That's it.
And he's probably due to come back soon because the game day stuff is about over. There's only a few more.
He'll probably be back a couple of weeks after the national title game.
Right.
So
he's going to have more chances to work on that because you're right. As a color commentator, you need to actually provide some substance to make it worth.
Right. So yeah, I mean I love Pat McAfee, but if he added more substance to it, I mean he's been a fan his entire life. He is a more than credible athlete. I mean, the man's played in the Super Bowl. He's the greatest punter of the last decade and a half. I mean, the guy is a legit athlete and a hell of a media personality. Hell of a personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does add to WWE programming, just not substance, in my opinion. I'm still not knocking the guy. I love him. I'll listen to him constantly. But I enjoy Cole and McAfee more, but I get more out of Cole and Graves.
I got one for you.
Who you got?
Gordon Solie.
One of the OGs.
Yes, one of the OGs, but for me, doesn't really do anything for me.
Really?
Yeah.
That's unusual.
For me, Gordon Solie is a lot like Howard Cosell or Keith Jackson. You're just telling me what's happening. You're not giving me anything more than what I'm actually seeing with my eyes. I could watch a football game that Howard Cosell was an old Monday Night Football game and ignore what Howard Cosell is saying and still figure out and not miss anything in terms of the game. Same thing with Gordon Solie calling a match. Gordon Solie didn't tell me anything I couldn't already see. I mean, he told a great story, but he didn't add. He didn't accentuate. I mean, he didn't put flavor on the steak. He just held the pan.
Okay, I can see your point on that.
Now, as far as from an X's and O's perspective, untouchable. Untouchable. X's and O's. But here's that word again. Intangibles, nothing. Wasn't trash. Just a big zero when it comes to intangibles. Just didn't have them. His intangibles weren't anything negative. They just didn't exist, which is better than having shitty intangibles. At least you're not trending downwards.
True. You guys got anything else? Because that's what
I got one more, and I have him in the best category because we're going to hear him tomorrow afternoon from Ring of Honor, Ian Riccoboni.
He's a name I'm not familiar with, but
Ian Riccoboni might be. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people love this guy, but I'll take Ian Riccoboni over Excalibur any day of the week.
Ooh.
they're the same in terms of how smart they are, how intelligent they are, what they bring to the table. The only thing Excalibur has on Ian Riccoboni is in-ring experience. I find Ian Riccoboni to be more concise. Excalibur is, here's a great analogy. This is the best one I can come up with. If I had in-ring experience and I became a commentator, I would be Excalibur. As it stands right now, Brian Kriego could be Ian Riccoboni. I learn from Ian Riccoboni because he's watched, he's observed, he knows. He's the smartest guy in the room when he's on the mic.
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So
How long has he been a Ring of Honor personality?
He's been there
And ever. No, I'm just going.
forever.
Forever, ever.
So, every so often when I queue up an old Ring of Honor match, like he called the Bucks and Motor City Machine Guns, and he called Punk and Joe, and he called, okay. I just never knew who I was listening to.
Yeah. I don't know if he's been around that long, but he's definitely
been
like when that first wave of major ROH talent left Ring of Honor, and then you had, your Adam Coles, your Bucks, the Bullet Club invasion of Ring of Honor, the Kingdom with Bennett and Taven and Maria Kanellis, and that era, Ian Riccoboni's all over that shit. Kelly Klein's run as Women's World Champion, all over that shit. The Super Card of Honor in Madison Square Garden when when New Japan came in, all over that shit.
Okay.
He's,
I guess I just needed some context.
all in.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in.
Never dawned on me who I was listening to on the call.
Yeah. He's the lead voice of All In. No, Excalibur was. But when they did the Ring of Honor World Title match between Nick Aldis and Cody,
God,
Ian Riccoboni's all over that shit.
well,
He might actually be part of a bigger part of the show than that. I can't remember, but I do know he was the lead on the it wasn't the Ring of Honor World Title. It was the NWA World Title. But he was all over that one. Anyway, you sound like you're about to say you had one more.
No, I have no more names on my list. You guys have exhausted all the names that I came up with. I mean, I think anybody else at this point, if we haven't mentioned them, they're probably not worth mentioning for a reason.
Not really. Can I just
actually
add,
you know who's sneaky good?
Who?
Because he gets a chance to do it quite frequently, especially on Rampage, is Jericho.
I disagree.
I'm not saying that he's bad. He's
I am.
You are?
I hate him. I would rather listen to Taz.
Really? Okay.
Oh,
I'd rather listen to Taz.
That hurt me.
Huh?
That hurt me.
I'm sorry. There are a lot of things that Chris Jericho does, and he has my full and undivided attention. That's not one of them.
And some calls are better than others, but there's been matches where I've watched where he's been on the call and he gets into a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff, and you're right, when he's not trying to put himself over, because there is an element of that to it also.
Really?
Yeah.
Jericho putting himself over?
I'm shocked.
Hey, Patrick, did you know that Jericho does the same shit you do? Really? I would have never known that.
ladies and gentlemen, if you learn nothing else from tonight's episode of Wrestling with Egos, remember this: the takeaway is that Jericho likes to put himself over.
Remember really early in her career when Taylor Swift would be at award shows and she'd actually win, she'd win an award and she had that Taylor Swift surprise face.
Before it became a foregone conclusion that yes, she's going to win everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know,
Taylor wins, lol.
Doing this shit before Kanye comes and interrupts her.
Don't mention his name anytime soon.
Oh no, piece of shit.
We're not. We can't right now.
That man is a discredit to the human race. Not any particular race, just the human race.
I can't.
I'm gonna swerve you off this topic really quick and do a little foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
Because it's about that time.
Wait. I'm waving my hand so I actually know where this is. Cue the foreshadowing alert.
It's about that time, boys and girls.
It's Iggy Awards.
We about to hand out that hardware.
It's award season. Season, not season. Season. Why? Why? Because unlike the gentleman in the green shirt, I realize that I'm a 40-year-old white man and I have no business saying season.
Well, that's for you to do. I'm going to say, hey, boys and girls, it's Iggy season.
Brian, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm not going to say it tonight. But every time you say season from now on, I'm going to say that 2-word phrase that makes you cringe every time I do. Well, initials are CO.
Yeah, it's going to come at least one more time.
Well, I'll say it too.
In January, because I always do it in January for, But the point I'm trying to make, boys and girls, is that the crack staff at Wrestling with Egos is hard at work determining this year's nominees and eventual winners for the slightly pared down version of the 2022 Wrestling with Egos Iggy Awards, the most coveted award in sports infotainment.
And by the pared down version, he means we're only doing 8 awards instead of 16. That way, it's not a 7.5 hour long show.
Yes.
Because the guy that edits this show likes to be a little extra with the graphics on the Iggy Awards, and therefore it doesn't take 9.5 hours to raster the son of a bitch. That's how long it took the raster last year's, and then I actually had to post it on YouTube. This is the night that never ends.
The never-ending story, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and did I mention that the computer crashed on me halfway through rastering it the first time? 5 hours in, the MFR crashed, and I had to start all over.
We're doing our part to help make sure that doesn't happen again.
Amount of hours it took last year to raster and post, 14. Amount of hours of sleep I got that day, 0.
Goose egg.
I am so sorry.
By the way, keep in mind, boys and girls, at that point in time, I was still working in my company's warehouse, working 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day. Well, Monday through Thursday. Remember, hey, Brian, remember those nights we would do the shows on Friday, and as soon as we were done, I'd turn my camera off and I'd go straight the hell to bed.
I do remember.
I don't miss those days. You know what the great part of my job is now?
Sleep.
Well, that too. But as the great philosopher Jimmy Buffett says, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Multiple reasons. Because at 5 o'clock, my ass is done. But when it's 5 o'clock for other people in Northeast Ohio, they're throwing back beverages of choice, and I'm selling them to their bars.
Nice.
It is definitely Christmas ale season here in Northeast Ohio. You realize how many damn Christmas ales we got in this damn area now?
Too damn many.
4 or
Over
5.
over 20.
Okay.
Over 20. Hell, you get over 5 of them just looking at the major craft breweries in this damn area. Fatheads has a couple. Great Lakes has theirs. Thirsty Dog has ours, the best one of them all, by the way. And that's 3 breweries and 4. Because Fatheads has Holly Jolly and Pimp My Sleigh.
And
By the
it's-
way, Thirsty
so-
Dog 12 Dogs of Christmas, still the best one.
Thank you to Thirsty Dog for being official sponsors of Wrestling with Egos, apparently.
They're definitely not definitely not an official sponsor of the show, but they're definitely an official sponsor of my freaking paycheck.
I'll drink to that.
So will I. Thanks to Thirsty Dog, Blake's Hard Cider, Deschutes Victory Rogue. I can keep going for all the beers that we distribute with my company. Because Debs is the people that keep the lights on in this sumbitch. I mean, the lights on here and making sure that, the computer gets to keep rastering, because without the computer and without Adobe Premiere, we don't have a show. At least a YouTube show. Thanks, guys. Thanks for my paycheck. Anyway, that being said, we're gonna tap out, call in the closer, which means cue the music. Appreciate you guys checking out hanging with us tonight as we discuss announcers. Next week is it. It is the 2022 Iggy Awards. Why are we doing it the week before Christmas? Because I don't know about these guys and KD, but I have no intention of doing a show on, let me make sure I have the dates right. I have no intention of doing the show on December 23rd or December 30th. Too close to holidays, especially when you co-parent with your daughter's mother, and Santa has to come a day early.
Fair.
To the 23rd, because being a parent, Brian, you know how this rolls now. Being a parent, when you have the little one, you get a certain phone number to a certain fat guy in a red suit. And I had to make the call to say, hey, big man. And I don't mean big man, I mean the big man, the big guy. I need you to come a day early for the kiddo. Got a co-parent. I won't do an impression, but it was...
Chances are very good he's going to come through.
Oh, I heard from the big man himself. Ho, ho, ho. I got it taken care of. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too, Santa. So, the 23rd, I'm going to be getting ready for Christmas. So,
Understood.
I ain't going to be here. These guys might. Not me.
We're gonna take a little break about that time, ladies and gentlemen.
We do every year.
Yeah, I got some business. I got some personal business got to be taken care of. It doesn't involve Santa this year.
But it does involve about 15 women.
and this year might involve the Orange Bowl.
Ooh.
So we're working on that right now. I'll tell you about that if and when, but we'll get into that a little bit later another time, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, we got some things we got to take care of.
Well, that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here, and we will get, and that way we can start the long, slow process of the next 7 days of getting ready for the award show. Second biggest show of the year, the WrestleMania preview being the other one, and we will argue and argue and argue for the next 7 days, and it might even carry over into the show next week. So for Brian, for Isaac, for the disembodied voice of KD Hinken, who will be joining us again next week. technical difficulties tonight. My name's Patrick. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling with Egos. And as I heard him exclaim as he rolled out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and that's why we love wrestling. Good night.